What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. So last week I did a video titled, what's an ideal offseason look like for the San Antonio Spurs? And you guys really seemed to like that, and you guys actually gave me some requests of other teams that you wanted to see me do. So I figured, hey, let's continue this. And the first team that was on that list was the Washington Wizards. And if you'll notice, I've actually made some adjustments to how this tool works. I had a little bit more time. I threw the last one, or I threw the tool together in like 15 minutes last time for the previous video. And I went and I made some adjustments. So now we've got like draft picks and stuff associated, as well as like player options and team options and non-guaranteed contracts and things like this, so that we can kind of go through the Wizards and figure out, what can we do to build upon this team for next season. Now, before I go any further, make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all those things. My monthly YouTube review always tells me I need to tell you guys to do that, so please do it. Thank you. But yeah, let's emphasize, this is what I think like an ideal offseason would look like. This doesn't mean I'm going to make this team a contender or anything next year. We're going to evaluate what this team looks like right now, which isn't good. They might be in the worst spot in the NBA. In my humble opinion, I truly think the Wizards are in the worst spot out of anybody, and we're gonna try to pick a direction for them, and we're gonna try and leave them in a better spot for next season to, I don't know if we're gonna say more competitive. We'll put them in a more flexible space to try and build. So the Wizards this year just haven't been good. Funny enough, like we all have seen the Kyle Kuzma quote where he was like, "Oh, you don't want to lose to the Pistons, right?" And now look at this, worst team in the NBA right now. Good news is for them is they get the first overall pick. In my scenario here, we're just going off of wherever they're currently at. That's the pick they get. I know the lottery can happen, and knowing the Wizards, they'll end up with like the 4th pick or something like that. Or watch them get like the 5th pick or something. Like just completely ruin this franchise that's already just struggled so much. But the team isn't good. It doesn't look good on the court, which is really sad. There's not a lot to be really excited about going forward. We've got guys like Koulibaly here who have been nice. Don't know what his ceiling is. Jordan Poole has played better as of late. Since being put on the bench, he's actually put together like some decent games, which is cool. He's shooting a little bit better now and everything. So maybe we're waking up Jordan Poole a little bit, right? I mean, you're stuck with him regardless, so let's at least try to find a way to maximize his talent and everything. And there's a couple ways we can do that on this team, but I want to direct our attention to the draft pick situation. This thing's currently highlighting the first round picks we have. So despite trading guys like Bradley Beal and Porzingis just last year, you'll notice the Wizards, they don't really have a lot of like great draft capital. There's a lot of little second round picks. There's like, I just like marked some of the ones that have some contingencies on them. Like this one's either going to be a Brooklyn or a Dallas pick. This pick is absolutely nuts how it works. I don't even understand how it can get that complex, but I'm not even going to try to explain it to you. This one, like this could actually be one of like 4 teams, but most likely it's going to be one of these 2 teams first round picks. So we actually have 2 first round picks this year, most likely. And then we have the right to swap with Phoenix this year, which won't happen because we were the worst team this year. And so we'll get the first pick. And so I want to start by just looking at the roster and how we currently have it constructed, right? Looking down here, no point guards on the roster, right? But we got guys like Jordan Poole, who's going to be on our team going forward, right? So we got guys like him. Kuzma, he's going to be our 4 for next year. Kuzma's made it clear he wants to be a part of the team. Denny, we've got at the 3 right now. That's awesome. Marvin Bagley, currently the center here. I know they play Rashawn Holmes there sometimes, but you know what? That just is what it is. I'm going to assume Rashawn Holmes accepts his player option, which is unfortunate because he's not actually like that effective. So we're going to assume Rashawn Holmes still on the team next year. Landry Shamet now. Landry Shamet doesn't have a guaranteed contract. $11 million next year. Let's take a look at his performance this year. Landry Shamet this year, 7 points per game, 34% from 3, hasn't been too effective anywhere else. Landry Shamet historically is just a 3-point shooter. He's a catch and shoot 3-point guy. He's been playing for a team that hasn't had a ton going, especially since their point guard play has been pretty weak this year. And so, if he doesn't have somebody creating for him and there's not a true system that he's playing in, it's no surprise that he's not going to be effective. And I don't think we're going to be able to necessarily turn that around very quickly here. So in my opinion, I am cutting Landry Shamet this year. And I just want to show you guys how this works too. We've got $9 million in cap room as of right now for 2024, 2025. So me cutting Landry Shamet here is going to help us out quite a bit, moving us back up to the 20 mil. Next, we got Koulibaly. Koulibaly slides in at the backup 3 here. Oops, I can't spell today. It's okay. We've got Koulibaly. Now we get into the team options here. Guys like Corey Kispert, Johnny Davis, Patrick Baldwin, and then just actually a couple hours ago, they released the contract of Eugene here and what his contract looks like. There is like a team. I shouldn't necessarily say it's a team option. It's just non-guaranteed. And so looking at these guys, like let's start off with Kispert. Kispert's an easy one. I'm keeping Corey Kispert around. Corey Kispert's a very effective basketball player, especially from three. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. He's actually really good in transition, and defensively he's pretty solid. Keeping Corey Kispert around. But now let's take a look at Johnny Davis, a guy they took with the 10th pick, a guy that I know very, very well, very personally. Hate to say it, I don't think Johnny Davis is getting his options picked up. I think this guy's falling out pretty quickly. I think he's going to have to go spend some time overseas, and I'm not going to waste your time with guys like Patrick Baldwin as well as Eugene here. If it's me, I can go find some other more interesting players. I'm taking these guys off the roster just right now, and you know what? That's just how it is. But this leaves us with 8 open roster spots, $28 million in cap room, $57 million in total. If we want to go into the luxury tax, I don't know how important that is. But the next part of this is using up some of our draft picks. Now, we've got 2 picks going into this year's draft. Let's take a look at who we want to pick. So we're all going to assume that we just have the first pick for this one, right? And with that, like, we can make a pretty simple decision with this team, but we also have this OKC or Clippers pick, and I believe that we get the most favorable of these two. Basically, like, I can't even remember what team, like, has the rights to this pick. I think, like, OKC gets, like, first pick between, like, them, somebody else, OKC, and the Clippers. They get, like, the first 2 of them or something, and then we get, like, the 3rd pick, essentially. So this is presumably wherever the Clippers are going to pick. So currently the Clippers are tied for, like, the 7th best pick right now, so we're going to assume that we have the 23rd pick in this next draft. So let's keep it simple. I'm using an old mock draft for this one just to kind of show you guys kind of what we're looking at and everything. But actually, as of today, a lot of people are saying Versace might go number 1. I still like the idea of picking up Sarr for this team. I just think we have a strong need at center right now. So I'm going to put Alex Sarr on the team here. And let's go see how much money that puts him at. I'm just using Victor Wembanyama's contract as an example, so it looks like it's going to be about $12,160,000. Y'all understand this. So we're going to put that in here, and I'm going to format this so that it looks a little bit cleaner with us. So that's where we get him. We get him for 4 years. Alex Sarr instantly goes to our starting center here. So we're going to plug Alex Sarr in. We've got a new starting center. That's awesome. We still have Rashawn Holmes. We're feeling pretty good about our center spot next year. We've got our defensive player here. Sarr is known for just being able to guard like perimeter players with some intensity. He's a great rim protector and everything. He's shown life from 3-point range, right? Huge motor on him. And honestly, I think we just need a motor guy in Washington right now. So in this scenario, we're taking Sarr with this first pick. With the next pick in our draft, and you know, I went and looked around guys that are going to be around the 23rd pick, but I actually think the Stephon Castle pick is actually a good one. So Stephon Castle is a guy that he's an unreliable jump shooter right now, basically like every kid coming out of college and everything, but he's 6'6", 215. Like, he's shown some defensive strengths. He's very athletic. We've seen other things, like he's been able to play make a little bit. A lot of UConn guys usually come in understanding the game pretty well. And so I like the idea of bringing in a guy with Koulibaly, who's also going to be a little more defensive oriented and athletic. Just putting those guys around Sarr, we're starting to build an identity, right, of like athletic, lengthy, strong defensive players. So with the next pick, with our 23rd pick, I am going to take, and I'm making sure I spell his name right, Stephon Castle. I'm looking up right now. The 23rd pick would make this much money. So let's throw that there. We'll format that again to make it look clean. All right, so we got 4 years out of Stephon Castle. We can put him here as kind of like another wing option. So Stephon Castle slides in as kind of a, just like we said, a wing right now. So we're left with $14 million in cap space, 6 roster spots left. We feel pretty good about our center position and our wing position. We could use We could use a little bit of stretch four. We need a lot of point guards. So, you know what? Let's dive into free agency and try and find us some point guards to play with this roster, because I think if there's one thing we've seen this year, it's Jordan Poole maybe shouldn't be that first option as a ball handler. And so we're gonna try to make some free agency moves to bring in a better point guard. And in this series, I would make trades if I thought that there were some available. And I'm sure that there's something that we could do. Like we could sell draft picks to try and sell Rashawn Holmes or something like that. But this team is far away from competing, so I'm not going to do stuff like that. Like, I'm just going to let Rashawn Holmes and, like, Marvin Bagley's contracts kind of run their course, let them see what happens, right? And just try to build with guys like Coulibaly, see what we can get out of Jordan Poole, like Corey Kispert. We've got this Stephon Castle and Alex Sarr now, so I'm going to be a little bit more patient with this roster. And I think that's something we all have to remember, is you have to be patient with these teams and build them up the right way. And I don't see an obvious trade to make here. Like, I don't know who's really all that interested in Denny, and Kuzma's made it clear he doesn't really want to get traded. Nobody's touching Jordan Poole's contract right now. Everybody would love Coulibaly, but I want Coulibaly, so I'm keeping him around. So here's the 2024 NBA free agency tracker. And so let's take a look. We got to find us a point guard right now, because nothing's going to work. Like, Alex Sarr is going to have such a hard time if we don't got like a point guard kind of running this show. And so I'm looking right now. Tyus Jones is obviously probably not going to want to come back. Why the Wizards didn't trade him this season is beyond me. I don't know why that wasn't able to take place, but I'm looking at a guy like a Markelle Fultz, and I'm very curious. So I want to direct our attention to our three-point shooting on this team, right? Tyus Jones was leading the team in three-point shooting. He's most likely not going to be on the team going forward. Denny, been a nice shooter for us, right? Marvin Bagley, been a pretty solid shooter this year in limited attempts and everything. Corey Kispert, reliable three-point shooter. We got to find a way to make three-point shots a little bit easier for him to get. Coulibaly's been all right. Kuzma, not so great. Shamet, Jordan Poole completely fallen off, and you see the trend or whatever. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Markelle Fultz is interesting for me. He's a very, very smart basketball player, right? Why can't I spell Markelle? There we go. And the concern has always been his three-point shot, right? But let's take a look at where that has fallen in the past couple of years, right? So it looked like it was creeping up a little bit last year, and it has completely fallen off a cliff this year, given he's only played in limited games so far this year and everything. But it's not looking like it's all the way there. And so for that reason, I probably got to scratch Markelle Fultz off the options. Looking at the rest of this list, though, we're kind of limited with some of the options out here, which makes you think maybe you should have taken a point guard earlier in the draft. Well, I don't necessarily think there's a point guard that's all that great in this draft. Like, I know Dillingham has been rising in the ranks and everything, but I'm not going to pass up on a guy like Sarr. It's harder to find size. I can find guards later for this team. Guys like Kyle Lowry, not coming to the Wizards next year. He's not interested in the payday, wants to win basketball games. D'Angelo Russell, I highly doubt it. I think he'd rather just go back to the Lakers and keep competing there. Tyus Jones, maybe not coming back, but maybe we have to throw some money at him. Monte Morris, hasn't Monte Morris played for the Wizards before? Yeah, okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah, he got traded to Detroit or whatever, and then the trade happened this year. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was him or who else was I thinking of, but I think I was probably right about whoever else was in my head. Monte Morris probably doesn't want to come here. Pat Bev's not doing it. Campaign. No, like I see guys like Spencer Dinwiddie. He's definitely not going back to Washington. He's not dealing with that bullshit. So we're kind of left with an odd situation here at point. So after looking through the guards a little bit more, I'm not sure where we're finding our starting point guard at least, so I've got a different idea now, and I've got someone in mind, and that is Dennis Schroeder here. Now, Dennis Schroeder got traded from Toronto because they brought in Emmanuel Quickley, and he was like, hey, I kind of came here so that I could get paid and be a starting point guard. I don't really care about winning right now. I'm just trying to be a starting point guard, go get my money, right? Dennis Schroeder, really nice player. Very good defensively, offensively. He's impossible to stay in front of. Good playmaker. Just quality basketball player overall. We can look at some of his numbers this year. 37% from three, getting you 6 assists a game. The turnovers remain relatively solid. 13.5 points per game. Nice veteran player. A guy that wants to start and go make his money. Let's try and figure out a way to bring Dennis Schroeder in now. I know I said I wasn't planning on making trades, but we're going to have to do what we have to do. And the reason that Brooklyn would be willing to do this is because they realize that they have kind of messed up this roster and they don't have a clear direction that they're going in. So I'm willing to bet that they're trying to sell some players. So Dennis Schroeder. So I actually have never used this tool before. This is interesting. All right. In essence, I've got to move some players around to try and get this to work. Out of curiosity, if I throw Landry Shamet in there now, okay. See, now we're talking a little bit. I know I said I didn't bring Landry Shamet back. Now let's say I'm keeping Landry Shamet on the roster so that I can trade him. So let's say we do something like that. They take on a Landry Shamet who, how much, they could even just like cut him because he's not guaranteed and just save the money. Brooklyn saves some money. They get out of some cap hell because we make this trade happen before his guarantee in like July. So that's how they can save some money. And then what do we have to offer them? We have a plethora of like second round picks. And now Brooklyn has a good collection of draft picks, but who's to say we can't throw them some more? Like, let's say next year, we also had a 2024 second round pick. I have to actually go and include that as well. I completely forgot about that. Let's make this trade happen first, and then we'll draft some people, right? Let's say that this trade's happening before the draft, right? Just play along with my scenario a little bit. Let's say I'm giving you guys our second round pick next year for Dennis Schroeder. That's a valuable pick in itself because we might be ass next year still. So you know what? We're doing that. We're getting rid of our second round pick next year. That's valuable enough in itself. The Chicago Bulls might be starting to tank by 2026. This might be a high second round pick as well. You can have that, and you get to save some money by cutting Landry Shamet. So now I get to welcome Dennis Smith Jr. to my team. I said Dennis Smith Jr., I meant Dennis Schroeder. Just forgive me, it's Tuesday. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's Tuesday. So now we get to welcome Dennis Schroeder to this roster, and that cut our cap space pretty significantly because he makes a decent amount of money, but it's a one-year contract. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work anyway. The point is we've brought in a starter quality player, a starter level point guard, and I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit so that we can see this a little bit better. But we now have a starting caliber point guard in here. We gave up a couple draft picks to make this happen, but you know what? We needed somebody that can run the show, go get some buckets for us, somebody that can play with Sarr at a faster pace, play some defense, right? We've got a defensive identity that we're building now around guys like Jordan Poole and Kuzma who aren't historically great defensive players. You got guys like Schroeder, Kispert solid, Stephon Castle's going to be a defender for us one day. You got Koulibaly, Sarr, right? Marvin Bagley's not a horrible defender in himself. So we've got some things going on here. So now let me go back into the draft and everything and figure out who I'm taking with the first pick in the second round. All right, with the 31st pick in the draft, I know this is 32nd. I was just looking through people that we think will be available. I'm going to take KJ Simpson out of Colorado. A little bit older dude, which honestly I'm fine to have a little bit more maturity. But he's a guard. I'm going to slide him in at the 1 right now. Yeah, he's a Darren Collison build. But what's most interesting is the 46% on 4.4 three-point attempts right now. And most importantly, I was looking into some of his stuff. He plays a lot of off-ball, which is good because that means I could maybe play him with Schroeder at times, or maybe if Jordan Poole's cooking a little bit, we can have him running around screens and things like that. So with that being said, I'm going to take KJ Simpson, and I already know that it's 599, 1, 2, 3. That's how much he would get here. He's getting a 2-year contract out of us. So KJ is going to slide in as a developmental piece for us because I'm going to try to find another backup point guard to have play with maybe more of a minimum contract or something like that first. So now let's take a look at the gaps we still have. We still have 4 roster spots, and there's some ways I want to use this. 1, we need another 4 or something like that, and then we got to get some vets on this team. We desperately need more vets on this team, so we'll use the veteran minimums to try and fill up the remainder of the spots. But let's try and find us a backup power forward that can come in and maybe play some minutes or something like that. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the free agency tracker, and let's just go to forwards in general and kind of see who's available and see if anybody sticks out. Like a Doug McDermott's interesting, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, Royce O'Neal. Kyle Anderson's going to be an option. He's at least like steady. Chetty Osman, maybe he's going to want to play for a championship team. Maybe Otto Porter comes back or something. How's Otto Porter been this year? I don't even know. Otto Porter shooting about 35% from 3. We get to bring him back to Washington. You know, that could be an interesting option. I don't know. I think I kind of want to bring in Otto Porter. I feel like that's a good, reliable guy. He's played some championship basketball. He feels just like a good fit on the team. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring Otto Porter in here. He's going to get the vet minimum, which I believe is 272. Yeah, that's what it is. And he's going to get a 1-year deal out of us. And I'm going to slide Otto Porter then as a reserve kind of wing power forward for us. And now we have 3 roster spots left. Definitely the spots we want to hit is we want to hit another wing. We definitely need another point guard, because if not, KJ Simpson's going to have to jump in and play right away, and you can't just have 2 point guards on the roster. That's just not going to work. And then maybe another 4. But yeah, let's just take a look at who's still available. I'm going to close some of these tabs. I don't need all these tabs open. But let me go back to point guard specifically, because I want to try and find a way to fill a need here. Chris Dunn, I actually think, is going to get like more than a minimum contract next year. DeLon Wright, maybe. Jordan McLaughlin's kind of interesting. Aaron Holiday, Dennis Smith Jr. I'm interested in Aaron Holiday and Dennis Smith Jr. Funny enough, I made the Dennis Smith Jr. mistake when trying to talk about Dennis Schroeder earlier, so kind of funny that we're talking about him now. I actually think Dennis Smith Jr. still has plenty of room to play in the NBA. For Brooklyn right now, getting about 7 points a game. The 3-point shot just has never materialized, which is weird because he has a good 3-point shot. So not really sure what's happening there, but 3.9 assists, capable NBA point guard, can push the ball in transition a little bit. Not incredibly high on him, but we only have so much money to work with and so much availability. Not everybody wants to come play for the Washington Wizards. Let's take a look at Aaron Holiday now. One of the Holiday brothers shooting 41% from 3, about 7 points a game as well. The assists are a little bit low, but he doesn't really get to touch the ball a ton in Houston right now. I say we throw a little contract offer at old Aaron Holiday, and now we can only offer the minimum. And so what I think we do is we throw that at him. I think Aaron Holiday is willing to sign for that. I don't think a ton of people are rushing to his door right now. So let's bring in Aaron Holiday here, and we're just gonna copy both of these, bring these down here. All right. So we're making some moves now. Aaron Holiday is going to be our backup point guard. If KJ Simpson impresses us in camp, he gets to come in, right? Good for KJ. Let's go take a look at some of the other positions. Let's just look at forwards, because that's what we're going to be bringing in, right? And now I want some veterans on this team. I want vets. Nick Batum is one that I used in a previous series. I don't think he's going to Washington. I don't think there's a good reason for him to do that. Jay Crowder probably wants to play for a championship team. Robert Covington, I don't really know about that. Doug McDermott, I feel like Doug McDermott gets more than a minimum. Reggie Bullock's an interesting one, though. Reggie Bullock, catch and shoot 3-point shooter. We need more 3-point shooting on the team. He's been very comfortable. He's been on a lot of good teams in the past. I want to bring Reggie Bullock into this team. Let's throw Reggie Bullock on here. Again, grabbing these, giving him the veteran minimum for a year, because he hasn't done a ton this season anyway. We've got 1 roster spot left. I'm going to throw Reggie Bullock here as another small forward option. Let's see if we can't find just one more power forward option. I'm not bringing Thanasis Antetokounmpo in here. Not Saric, not guys like this. Lamar Stevens, Najee Marshall. Najee Marshall's a really interesting one, but I don't know really what the value is. So we're looking at Robert Covington right now. Robert Covington, historically really good 3-point shooter, nice power forward, small forward option. Hasn't really been all that great at shooting as of late. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, because Roko's on the last year of his contract, I don't think a team is going to be rushing to pick him up or anything, but he's a veteran presence on the team. Maybe we find some improved floor spacing and stuff. So I want to bring in Covington here to fill up this last spot. And again, I know these guys aren't the most impactful or anything, right? But it's adding vets to the team that can push some of these more important players in the right direction, like a Sarr, right? A Jordan Poole, Denny, guys like Corey Kispert, the Stephon Castle that we drafted, right? A KJ Simpson, maybe he becomes something at some point. Hard to say. But we need to change the culture of this team, because it's just a mess right now. They don't look like they know what they're doing. And look at this. Next year, how many guys do we have coming off of contracts? Rashawn Holmes, Marvin Bagley, Schroeder, right? Schroeder, we get a trial year, basically. All the guys we just signed to minimums, and we get to keep the important players around, right? And so we've got ability to be more flexible. Next year now, we're putting, hopefully, a more competitive team out there now, because we hope that Jordan Poole and Kuzma continue to take a better role of being the best 2 players on this team. We've got some defense at the rim now with Sarr. Hopefully he's the future of this team. Schroeder can be a nice, reliable offensive option. Hopefully Denny continues to develop. Maybe he gets a little better defensively. Koulibaly, hopefully that first guy off the bench for us. But we've got options on this team now. We've got talent. We didn't pick up any picks. We actually lost 2 so that we can have competent point guard play, which I think was important for this team to do. But I don't mind this team at all. I don't mind this team. Again, is this team going to make the playoffs next year? Almost certainly not. But the point is we're picking a direction. We're starting to focus a little bit more on defense. Hopefully we've hired a coach that can continue to push that a little bit. And hopefully we don't look as just ridiculous on the court as they have looked at times this year. So this is my idea of it. You guys let me know what you think and everything, especially Washington fans. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. But for now, this is what I got. Let me know what teams you want to see me do next. Always curious, but until then, really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all those YouTube things for me. We'll see y'all later.